technology, the spirit that binds us. Strictly not for sale to persons under 18 years. Please drink responsibly.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, how can Uganda become more competitive as an investment destination in spite of the current economic turbulence? Our guests tonight, Mr. Eric Kacou, co-founder of ES Partners and author of Entrepreneurial Solutions for Prosperity, which talks about escaping the survival trap. He's been talking to us about the survival trap. We also have Mr. Allon Raiz, founder and CEO of Raizcorp. Raizcorp is based in South Africa. It's the only unfunded profitable business incubator on the African continent. It's supporting more than 240 businesses from different countries on the continent. We also have Dr. Peter Ngategize, the national coordinator of the Competitiveness and Investment Climate Strategy. You'll be able to call in shortly. Strategist Secretariat. You'll be able to call in shortly and contribute to this discussion. Dr. Ngategize, when you talk about competitiveness, what are some of the areas that Uganda can compete in, looking at the regional borders opening broadly?
Well, as we always say, previously we used to say Uganda is landlocked. These days we talk about is land connected. Uganda is land connected, surrounded by huge population in terms of citizens of Southern Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and the like. So it's around that we have a market opportunity. And as you may know, Edmond, part of our challenges in terms of food prices is part result of the high demand from our neighbors. That is basically an opportunity to our farmers. So there lies an opportunity, and therefore when we are talking about clusters that can create jobs and exports, there are going to be some of these clusters in grains, in vegetable oils, and in horticulture that basically are still an opportunity because of a growing population within and outside the region. The second one may relate to our youth, who we have already talked about as being a majority. The expectation is at a higher level. They don't want to do much agriculture, but they will go into industry, into value addition aspects. But they have opportunities to go into the ICT area, basically business process outsourcing opportunities. Already around Kampala, from the Secretariat angle, we have seen or experienced about 44 BPOs, ranging from companies that do SMSs to companies that are doing telemarketing or data entry, to marketing that are doing to enterprises that are doing enterprise development, to enterprises that are helping in the oil sector already in terms of supplying the labor resource that the oil industry needs, or the food that the oil industry needs. There is an opportunity there. The global market, I'm told, is about $5 billion, and Uganda's young global population, BPOs, yes, business process outsourcing, yes, yeah, basically, and our youth, with our English accent, with basically the education levels that we have, there lies an opportunity that we can take, but also with the geographical location. When America is asleep, we are awake, and when they sleep, so you can do quite good business of telemarketing and the like, and be at the same level. So they are quite, you can even talk about basic facilities like servicing weather vehicles and all that, all these trucks that come through this country, going to our neighbors, offers opportunities for investment. With the oil, if I can go back to that, the needs for welders and all these basically labor-based opportunities that we need to grow and take advantage of, and downstream, the industry, and upstream are opportunities that will emerge. So Uganda basically has huge potential. We are basically still growing. The agricultural sector, the value addition we talk about is really not yet done. The products are not yet sophisticated to be able to compete. So there lies the opportunity for this country. And I think if we get the right mindsets, if we improve the environment and get the business sophistication, the enterprises, the SMEs being able to have right mindsets, right skills, and linked into the markets, the opportunities are huge.
You're basically defining what the Japanese call keiretsu, the forward and backward linkages of businesses. Who's going to lead this kind of thing? Very briefly, Dr.
Well, very briefly is, if I'm to be brief, I will say these gentlemen we have brought here are already communicating those vehicles that we are going to be able to use to do this. And part of it, of course, is our mindset change, knowing that things can be done differently.
A different way. Of course, the budget for the last 2 times they've talked about mindset change. We don't know how far they've gone in doing that. Allon, could you talk to us about the successes in South Africa? How can they be supplanted to work here?
I think what's one of the key success factors for Raizcorp is the fact that we took at the beginning a very controversial view. To talk the language of for this conversation tonight, we had a mindset difference to the standard approach to incubation. And what we said was that we would rather be highly selective and choose the best entrepreneurs and then back them with the best support, as opposed to take a volume approach and take thousands of entrepreneurs and have no one succeed. And our country and many countries I've visited around Africa who've had this volume approach to entrepreneurship and enterprise development have seen very little or no results. So our approach has been very much around selection, and we've built an incredible selection tool. 1 in 20 gets in, but once they're in, then we've built an equally
only 1 in 20 gets in.
Yeah,
that's a very narrow road.
Yeah,
so it'll be like going to heaven like this. Yeah. Go on.
Except they don't have to die.
But once they're in, they are it literally is like they're in heaven, because then they are supported no matter what. They do not have to be profitable. We will support them through that profit, that journey to profitability, and we'll back them to the hilt, because now we've chosen them. All they have to do is comply in terms of being going to their lectures. They have to meet with their guides, and as long as they are engaging, they can stay in the program. We never kick them out. But if they don't engage, then we kick them out, and somebody else is waiting in line.
Yeah. And how many countries are you operating in? Do you have offices where you have these countries?
Yes, we're operating in 2 countries right now. We have 8 offices in total. And we also have some rural programs, deep rural programs with no offices. We have peri-urban programs. We also run a program all around South Africa now for the 2nd year called Pitch and Polish, which is like an idols for entrepreneurs, where we go into smaller towns and we pull out all the entrepreneurial talent out of that town, and we give them massive exposure. And last year's winner was sent off to the US, where she was mentored by somebody in her industry. She then we put her onto radio and onto TV, and within 10 minutes she raised $1 million for a business from a Dutch company, who then backed her. And it's an ethnic hair care product using avocado oil, and we found her in the middle of nowhere. And those are the stories that we want to find those stories here in Uganda.
That is remarkable. Eric, can you talk to us about experiences where this kind of concept has succeeded?
So I think a good example is to look at a sister nation of Uganda, which is Rwanda. As you all know, Rwanda has actually gotten quite a bit of traction as it relates to economic development. If I were to give you a few sort of statistics or facts, over the past 10 years, they have multiplied the level of export by a factor of 6, going from about $70 million to well over $50 million today. They've managed to be named the top reformer in the World Bank doing business, as you've all heard. World Economic Forum has identified them as the most competitive nation in East Africa. These are all results which were really due to the fact that they really tried to take a very entrepreneurial mindset to the challenges that they were facing, all starting with Vision 2020, which really was the starting point here. Right. Now, to me, if I bring this to Uganda, I really see all the signals for Uganda to do even better. And the reason there is a few things. First, if you think
Uganda can do better than Rwanda?
I believe.
Go on, you're a very optimistic man. Go on.
I believe so. So, I mean, it's actually a challenge. I think Uganda really has the potential. You should really try to make it happen. So for example, today on the first page of the paper, you have the Lonely Planet.
Yes.
Identifying Uganda as the top tourism destination to visit for
giving 7 reasons for that.
Right? Now, I think of tourism as one of the sectors where there is quite a bit of potential in this country. It is a sector where for every visitor you have 7 jobs that are created. Rwanda has actually managed to make tourism its first foreign exchange earner in the country, all built around the tourism of the primates. So people go and see them. Yeah, exactly.
Which you also have here.
Which you also have here. So I think about what I'm saying, look, can you collaborate with Rwanda and find a way in which you can expand to what's already happening? Can you find a way to really grow that particular business together? Can you really transform the tourism industry? Because it's not only the gorillas that you also have a lot of birds, you have quite a bit as it relates to some butterflies, you really have a lot here, the culture, etc. So I'm thinking there is definitely something to be done around tourism that would really create not only jobs, but also export receipts, which are consumed locally. And I think this is important because when you export oil, because it is consumed or transformed outside the country, the impact is not as much as when it is consumed locally.
Right.
The second sector where I think there is quite a bit of potential is the business process outsourcing, or BPO, and I think Peter has mentioned it.
Right.
One of the often aspect of BPO which is not really looked at is everything that Ugandan businesses are spending in bringing the goods from Kenya to here.
Yes.
Right? This is actually business process outsourcing. It's basically me as a company deciding that I need to pay someone to transport things for me. When we think of MTN or Orange or Airtel, all of them basically need customer service, right, which is probably done on the phone. So when we think of business process outsourcing, there is a lot of jobs that we can create for young university graduates where they can provide services which are needed both within the country but also outside the country, which again would create lots of jobs, have a huge impact. So to me, I look at some of those things and I think, you know what, it's definitely possible. And today we had a chance to visit Makerere University as well as Uganda Industrial Research Institute.
We've just been able to produce an electric vehicle. We're still praying about the electricity. Go on.
I mean, those centers are really places where things are already happening today. So
right.
So in saying that it is possible, and I think there is really something there, I really want to challenge Ugandans to say, look, given the potential that we have, given how far we have traveled, how do we take it to the next level?
This is Spectrum. You can call in now. Our numbers 0414 348 111, 0312 260 390, 0312 261 390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from. Allon, how can Ugandan entrepreneurs plug into your program?
Well, we're not here yet, but God willing, we will be here soon, and we will then, if we arrive,
you'll announce it.
We'll announce it, and then we will have a call to entry,
right.
And we will then take people through a selection process.
All right, we have a caller on the line. Spectrum, hello.
Hello.
Your name? Yes.
This is Wamboga Mugiria.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, it's great to join you guys on such a topic which lies at the bottom of my heart. The issue of innovation and invention is very important, and incubation is one critical stage at which technologies are placed before you can perhaps attract investors and attract would-be manufacturers who can take from researchers and push the products to commercialization. Now that is widely lacking in Uganda, Edmond. And I'm glad these guys are raising this issue. I see the Uganda Industrial Research Institute and the Uganda National Council of Science and Technology jointly working together to create incubation days or parks. And one critical area is the industrial park, but we don't see this industrial park taking off. Whatever has been planned is read on paper. There's no serious action being taken to create incubation parks where we can see technologies and innovations incubated before they can actually go beyond the proof of concept stage so that they can be commercialized. So there are lots of ideas, there are lots of innovations, there are lots of inventions at universities and research institutes, but incubation is lacking. And sometimes the products get to the market when they're not ready. So I'm glad the issue of incubation is on your talk show, Edmond. Thank you very much, and greetings to those gentlemen.
Peter, good to hear from you. Spectrum, hello. Hello.
Edmond.
Yes, your name?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jim is your name. I think Peter Mugiria said everything that I want to say, but I still want to drive it for political. Is the circumstance and time possible for those good dreams and ideas to be implemented? We have a program called the National Development Agenda or program laid out by government. I don't know the time frame, but would they have something to input? Thank you.
Jimmy, thank you. We'll get the answer to that, the response to that. Spectrum, hello. Okay, let's hear from you, Larry.
Yeah, so I think both Peter and Jimmy really stressed.
Let's take a final caller, then we get Spectrum, hello.
Hello.
Yes, your name?
I'm Moses in Bombo.
Moses, yes?
Yeah. Technology has advanced, but I don't know why in agriculture people are still installing egg oil. Thank you.
Oh, we missed that point too. I really would have been glad to
He's saying technology advance. Doesn't see why agriculture is
still in the Stone Age. I think he's made a solid point in very few words.
Okay, so I think Peter and Jimmy really bring something that's really, really important. And I want to talk about this issue of creating. I think one of the biggest area where we need to have mindset change is having what I might call a culture of execution. Because I've heard a few stories around of policies and strategies which were developed in Uganda, and you have visiting leaders from other countries who come here, they pick up the policies, they go back to the country, they implement it, they get the results, and Uganda doesn't. I don't know whether or not those stories are true, but hearing from what Peter and Jimmy are saying, it seems like that's one of the concerns. I really, really believe that it is critical that, as Peter was saying earlier, there is a system which is put in place which looks at issues of incentives. As in, when programs are implemented, how do we make sure that we actually recognize those leaders which were behind the implementation? But also, when programs are not implemented, how do we make sure that people are basically being punished when it doesn't happen? I think this is critical, and I believe it's critical because in the end of it all, those strategies are not really ink on paper. It's about the life of youth, it's the life of women, it's the life of men, citizens of this country, that we are trying to change through those actions. So I think it's really important that there is a culture of execution which is created, and everywhere you have seen tremendous impact, whether it is in business or in individual lives or in countries, it is wherever people have really taken relentless action to really make things happen.
Let's talk about corruption. Some of us might not have seen it, but the president saw it. Actually, when he went around, he said there are many thieves in Uganda. Is it possible for a country to develop when there's a lot of corruption, especially at our level?
Is it possible for a country to develop when there is a lot of corruption? Oh my God, you're asking me a question. How much time do we have?
Well, very briefly.
Very briefly, okay. I think this is probably, we should have another show on Spectrum just dedicated to corruption, but in few words...
It's a good thing or a bad thing. Some people think it creates a middle class.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. In everything that I've read about economic development and entrepreneurship over the past 10, 15 years, I haven't seen anyone who ever said that corruption was a good thing. I think the jury is in, there is consensus that corruption is really, really bad.
It's a cancer. It destroys society.
It destroys everything because it really creates a situation where trust is not there. It distorts incentives. I mean, it takes away the resources which are required to execute whatever plan and policies you have. So, I mean, I really, really believe that it's difficult to say that corruption is a good thing, and I'm sort of very sort of interested to see exactly how Uganda deals with this particular issue, which really came up in one of the surveys as being a top challenge.
So you think we should begin to hate it? Should begin to hate corruption?
I believe that you already hate it. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm the one to tell you that you should begin to hate it. I think it's there already.
All right. Allon, would you like to say something about that?
About corruption?
Corruption, does it affect the kind of processes that you undertake in helping small businesses?
Sure it does, because when you're building a business, you want to believe that you have as good a chance as anyone else, and the fact that your efforts will result in rewards. When you're in an environment where the economy is distorted through corruption
Destroys the economy.
It destroys the economy 100%, and it destroys your incentive as an entrepreneur to actually take your business further. Because why? If now it's about who I know and not what I know, and it distorts what you're pursuing at the end of the day.
Know who rather than know how.
Yeah.
Well, some people in Uganda we talk about an unlevel playing field. So corruption gives you an unlevel playing field.
Well, I don't think it's unlevel. It's completely. It's vertical. It's completely
upside down.
You can't move within that environment. There are very few people who can. Just by default, there's those people who can. In South Africa, we have a term called tenderpreneurship. Tenderpreneurship. Yeah, which is now a big thing. Also for building the middle class, and it's now the problem is that the companies that then get these tenders then don't deliver on them, and everyone loses out.
All right. People get tenders not because they qualify, but because they know some people.
Yes.
And then they don't deliver.
They haven't got the ability to deliver. They didn't win them fairly based on their capability. That's what they knew. They build a building and it collapses, or they build a school and forget to put the roof on, or those kind of things. So everyone loses in those situations.
Interesting. Right now, as we speak, Uganda at some point wanted to buy some bicycles. So what did we do? We closed our eyes and picked on a coconut company to give us bicycles from India. Up to now, we've not even got 1%. They told us they've got 1% of the bicycles, 70,000. They've got 1,200, and they're on a tortoise back somewhere in Mombasa. So that kind of thing resonates very, very clearly. You're not talking utopia. Dr. Ngategize, just before we go, what kind of bottlenecks can Uganda structurally look at? You've spoken about competitiveness. So what other structural bottlenecks can Uganda look at in order to get competitive? We used to talk about being, potentially a food basket. Tanzania has similar, potential. Southern Sudan has probably a bigger potential than us. How can we leverage our own competencies?
Edmond, let me answer it this way. First of all, I want to thank those who called in, Peter Wamboga, Jimmy, and Moses. I think your points are valid. You have welcomed the idea of incubation, and basically you have talked about the issue of implementation, and the question of now with the technology that is available, why are we operating agriculture in the Stone Age? A few points. One, yes, for our youth and others, we need vehicles that will attract them and basically pick up their passion and work in. And those are the things we've been talking about: BPOs, business process outsourcing, tourism, and the like. Point number two, as you go into the agricultural sector, I want you to also realize that there are sectors like tea, coffee, bananas, where Uganda does well, and beef. And I think we are basically using the technology that is as good as anybody else in the country. You don't need to irrigate those crops. You don't need to be using tractors, basically. You need just to manage the moisture in coffee, bananas, and you can be as productive as you want. So there is room for increasing our productivity, not necessarily having to do irrigation and tractors. There are sectors within, say, our maize and the like, where the issues of seed, quality seed, storage, warehousing facilities, especially when you have rains like we have had, that basically reduce our competitiveness. Those are the areas I want to see government investing more, and I think the minister has communicated around that. There are also other areas like in the beef culture area and fish that also have opportunities that don't actually need greater sophistication than what we are doing. So basically, the technology has to match the environment we have, and I think what is being done to get the country there.
And we have to end corruption.
Absolutely.
We have to end here. Thank you very much, Dida.
And I'm sure you have seen actions around, and it's
actions around. Thank you very much, Mr. Eric Kacou, co-founder of ES Partners and author of Entrepreneurial Solutions for Prosperity. Thank you for coming to Spectrum, sir.
Thank you, Edmond.
Mr. Allon Raiz, founder and CEO of Raizcorp, the only unfundable profitable business incubator. Unfunded, pardon me. Profitable business incubator on the African continent, now supporting 240 businesses plus. Thank you for coming to Spectrum.
Thank you.
Dr. Peter Ngategize, National Coordinator, Competitiveness and Investment Climate Strategy Secretariat. Thank you for coming to Spectrum.
It has been my pleasure, Edmond.
Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English. Do stay tuned.